Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Delighted to DIY. If you like thrift flips and budget home decor DIYs, why don't you consider hitting that red subscribe button.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for sticking around if you did. I know I've been absent and went absent kind of abruptly. I've had some trouble with my depression and I'm getting it back under control. So I've got the motivation and drive to start doing some DIYs again, and I hope you like them. So for today's video, I'm bringing you a few brand new traditional Valentine's DIYs. Now let's get into it. For this first DIY, I started with one of these MDF heart signs from Dollar Tree, and I began by taking my scraper or putty tool and removing the cardboard XOXO and just cleaned up the back, then set it aside as we will use it later on in this project. I also removed the foam flowers at the top and used my heat gun to help warm up the glue to get it off a little easier, as well as using the putty tool. I removed the hanger and then began on the front of this project, so that way the back was already nice, and took a mop head from Dollar Tree and took it apart and began gluing it on a diagonal using the lines that were already on the heart as a guide. And I just used my hot glue and glued the mop head strings on one at a time all the way along the heart and filled the whole heart in. Once the heart was full with the mop head strings, I took my scissors, just regular scissors, and started cutting around, taking off the excess of the mop head parts, or mop head strings, sorry about that, from the tops and bottoms all the way around the edges. I just cut from the back and went around following the heart as my line. With some faux fur yarn from Dollarama. I know you can find this probably at many of your craft stores as well. I haven't quite seen just white at Dollar Tree. Yet again, I'm in Canada and we don't have the same selection that the Americans get, but any sort of yarn, faux fur, nautical rope, anything like that would work, because all we're going to do is outline the heart. And I did this, one, to add texture, and two, to help the ends of the mop head not fray. So I just put down some hot glue, then glued on the faux fur yarn all the way around the heart. Next, I took two of these die-cut wooden ornaments from Dollar Tree. I got these last year, as our Valentine's section at Dollar Tree this year is really bad. I don't know if we're just slow to get stuff, but there is hardly any crafting items. Luckily, I had some in my stash, and I do want to use up what I had. So anyways, I thought I'd try out the new acrylic paint that Dollar Tree carries. Let me tell you, after two coats, I barely noticed a difference and ended up switching to my white chalk paint instead, which still took two coats, but at least it was white. So I painted a coat, let it dry, and then painted another one. While those were drying, I had already had this red frame that it was a canvas, and I removed the canvas over Christmas and painted it red over Christmas because it was my children's advent calendar. So I thought, perfect, I can repurpose this for now. So I am using the red frame and am attaching the heart to make it hang in the middle. So I'm just using some jute twine and some hot glue and gluing it to the back of the heart. I'm reinforcing it with a little hot glue over top, as well as using some leftover mop strings to help hold it in place. Just another way to reinforce it. I think this would help. So I put a couple of those on and then did the same thing for the other side. Then I glued the twine, or the jute twine pieces, to the back of the frame in the same manner. I put down a little hot glue, put down the twine, and then reinforced it over top with some glue and a couple other pieces of mop head strings. Lastly, I just cleaned up the back to make it look as pretty as possible by just trimming off any excess jute twine. For the die cut hearts, once they were dry, I laid them out on my work surface to see where I wanted them to hang, because I knew I wanted them to hang at different heights or lengths and attached them in a very similar manner with some jute twine. I hot glued it onto the back of the die cut heart, then hot glued it onto the back of the frame where it lined up, then reinforced it again a bit with some more hot glue on each heart and at the top of the frame so that they would be securely hanging. I took this Decor piece that says love. It's a thick piece that I got from Dollar Tree last year, yet again, and marked where it was going to sit on the frame. Because the frame has those little bit of indentations on the front, I figured I could fit some popsicle sticks back there to also help hold the sign in place. So I just marked lightly with my pencil where it would sit behind the O and the long part of the E, and then just hot glued the popsicle sticks in those spots, and then just kept making sure that they weren't seen from the front. Then I added hot glue along the bottom and sides of the love word as well as the popsicle sticks and glued it onto the bottom corner of my frame. I used some hot glue for the XOXO that we had removed in the beginning and glued it onto the bottom right side of the heart on an angle. And to cover up the holes from the die cut ornaments, I just made a simple shoestring bow out of jute twine and hot glued it in place.
Why am I looking at you? You're a picture in a frame. I make believe you're next to me, but I know it's not the same. Why am I looking at you? You're a pixel on a screen. Your animating principle is nowhere to be seen.
For DIY number 2, I started with some wooden hearts. They were natural and unpainted. I got them from Dollarama for $2.50 and there was 136 of them. They are all the same size, but I'm sure I can use them in many ways. Then I took a small paintbrush and my folk art chalk paint in white Adirondack and painted 24 of the hearts, including the sides, all over 2 coats, and let them dry. While they were drying, I took this canvas that I got from Dollar Tree and took off the wrapper, and then took some scrapbooking paper that I got from Michael's in one of their paper packs and used my glue stick to glue it down to the front of the canvas. Because one sheet of scrapbooking paper was not long enough to cover the canvas, I took a second identical one and just lined up the lines as best as I could so that it would be as seamless looking as possible, so that the pattern just looked like it was continuing on. There is a slight line when you look up close, obviously, but from far away, when I'm looking at this picture hanging in my house, I can't tell that I had to use 2 pieces of scrapbooking paper. So again, I just used my regular school glue stick and glued it down. Once the pages were glued down to the front of the canvas, I took my box cutter and just trimmed away all the excess pieces of scrapbook paper around the canvas, making sure to do this on my self-healing mat, as there's been times that I just want to get something done and don't do it on the self-healing mat, and no matter how light you try to cut, I still cut the surface below. On my Cricut Joy, I printed out a set of the alphabet, and instead of using transfer tape, I just tried to use them as stickers by using this piercing tool, because of course I could not find my weeding tool for the life of me. So I put on all the letters except for IOU onto the hearts. Now the red stickers I'm using, I ended up getting from Dollar Tree, and I thought I had black ones that size that would have worked in place of a Cricut. You can also hand letter them. By all means, there are different methods, but anyways, I got these red ones and I attached an I and a U to 2 of the hearts, the last 2 hearts, and then took one of these foam stickers from Dollar Tree and just gave it a coat of my holiday red acrylic paint, just so that it was kind of more similar color of the red stickers. This is how we are going to lay out the letters. It's going to be the alphabet, obviously, and highlighted in red is the I heart you. The heart is in place of the O. I used a ruler to measure the halfway point of the canvas and then kind of used the ruler just to make sure they were all even. I guess a level would have been more what I needed to make sure that my line was straight, but I just used hot glue. I started with the middle one and kind of eyeballed it. Then I glued the outside hearts, the L and the P, about 1.5 inches. So if you're using a different size canvas, do what works for you. But this was all kind of just eyeballing and measuring. It's not an exact science. I like to try and eyeball because I'm a little impatient to try and measure it all out. But needless to say, I did kind of measure out like on each side of the rows where they would line up, and I would keep that in mind as I was gluing them down, and then again continue to do the middle letter, and I lined it up with, so when I'm working on the first row, I lined up the C with the N, just eyeballing it and put those on. You'll do this for all the letters. The only row that has 6 will be the second row. And that was it for this project. Oh, I added just a jute twine hanger on the back, and that is it for this project. I hope you like it.
Why am I lost in a loveless fantasy when somebody real is waiting out there for me? Why am I looking at you? I've enjoyed the years I've wasted.
For the last DIY of this video, we're going to use this jar. It's glass, all except the lid. It's plastic, and I got it from Dollartree. I liked it because it had flat surfaces, so I thought for my first time trying this type of DIY, it would be best. And then I found, which was a shock to me, this glass etching cream. So I assume it'll be like Armor Etch. Maybe not as good because it's from Dollartree, but I thought, hey, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this before. I haven't seen anybody work with it before. I'm going to give it a try. You guys are lucky enough to come along on the journey of a first try and first impressions of this new cream. On my Cricut Joy, I printed out the stencil I wanted to use. I did Kisses 25 cents, just typed it up. I kind of forget what font I used. Sorry. Any font, any script font would work to whatever your liking is. And then 25 cents. I used just some extra transfer tape because it was close by, and just put it along the top and side because I knew the K was really close to the edges and I didn't want it to go over the edge of the stencil. The instructions say to apply a thick layer. I did this after stirring the product in the bottle. I did it with a popsicle stick, wearing a glove, and left it on for 15 to 30 minutes. I left mine on for a little longer only because I had to go out, but I think it worked just the same. I don't think it being on longer did any damage to it. Then following the instructions, before peeling off the stencil, I rinsed it under warm water and then just wiped it clean and dry with a paper towel. And here's the reveal. It's actually better than I thought. It's not perfect. There was some like bleeding of the etching cream under the stencil, but I think for a $1.25 product, it worked out pretty darn good. I've not used Armor Etch, so I'm not exactly sure how great it turns out, but you guys will have to let me know what you think. Have you tried this? Have you found this product at Dollartree? Have you tried Armor Etch? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know if I did something wrong or if there's any tips to try to make this better. I am definitely going to play with the product again, and I will bring you some more trial and errors and tips and tricks if I find them out on my journey of DIYing. Then to finish it off, I added some red Hershey Kisses because of course Kisses 25 cents. What else would look better in the jar? And because I was going with traditional colors, I wanted the ones with the red foil. I then took some of this 5/8 ribbon that I got from Dollartree again last year in their Valentine section. I do think they have it out again this year, but I used some glue to tack it onto the back of the lid, then folded over the other end to give it a clean edge, and glued that down so that the ribbon was all the way around. Off camera, unfortunately, I didn't show this, but kind of in an northeast, southwest type of pattern. So in like 3 or 4 other spots, I did add a couple of dabs of hot glue just to make sure the ribbon was on nice and securely so that when opening the jar, it wasn't coming up or off or anything. Then with some coordinating 5/8 ribbon that I had in my stash, all from Dollar Tree, I just cut some lengths, about 5 inches, I would say. Pretty much any length over 3 inches would probably work. It depends on what size messy bow you want. Anyways, I cut 2 of each of the designs from the ribbons and then just began crisscrossing them in the pattern or in, well, it wasn't haphazardly, but I crisscrossed them in a way that I liked, having the pattern show, which ones I wanted on top, bottom, etc. Once I had them all crossed and I was happy with it, I took some jute twine and tied them off in the middle. After tying it, I gave the bow a little fluffing just to kind of get the ribbons evenly on each side, because I think I tied my jute twine not exactly center. But once I had fluffed it a bit, I then dovetailed all the ribbons. I just do this by folding the ribbon in half and cutting on a diagonal from the open sides upwards to where the folded side is. So I repeated this on both sides of the bow. With my finished bow, I trimmed off the excess jute twine that was holding it all together on the back and played around with placement. When I was happy with where I wanted the bow, I added hot glue to the back and glued it on to the jar. Then with one of the foam heart stickers that come in a multi-pack from Dollar Tree, these also were from last year. I'm not sure if they're selling them this year, but I think they're kind of a staple in their Valentine's crafting section. So if not, I believe you can get felt heart stickers, which actually I would prefer, but I couldn't find any at my Dollar Tree, so this is what I had in my stash and what I went with. I just stuck it on to the middle of the bow, and that is it for this last DIY. I hope you'll let me know which project was your favorite. Let me know down in the comments below, and I really want to thank everybody who has been patient with me and stuck around with my channel. I also want to give a big apology. I am completely sorry to anybody I may have hurt by kind of ghosting and just being absent. I know that I wasn't there to do some commitments I had, and I am very sorry to those DIY friends. As always, thanks for watching, and if you want to see more of this content, like more DIYs and thrift flips, why don't you consider hitting that big red subscribe button to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Bye!